This is the awkward part.
Is this the lag?
This is the lag.
Is it saying it's live?
It's
I'm
saying
looking down. Yay, it's live. There we go. Hi, everybody at the What's on an Elephant and Castle Facebook page. My name is Nick, and I'm here with Retribe. I'm just doing the awkward lagging Facebook connection stuff. Let's do gallery view so you can see me and Mel. Really deep apologies to everybody. Unfortunately, Andrew Fuller, he couldn't make it today for our live. Literally in the last few minutes, something has come up, unfortunately. So we're gonna reschedule Andrew for another time. But you do have me and Mel here. So
I don't know if that's better.
I think that's a pretty awesome situation because Mel, before I say hi, we can talk about what's going on right now. Like we are at our core are about building community. And I think it's, no more than now is community and connection needing with the world the way that it's going. So we can just have a nice little wrap for a little bit of time, and then we can reschedule Andrew for another time too. So Mel, how are things going over there with you? You're muted.
I'm muted. Yeah, I mean, it's I think there's a lot of things and pain that we're needing to hold that's happening right now in the world, and I think yeah, it's how it is right now, and I'm trying to be part of it without overstepping and making things worse, and I'm just trying to figure out how to be in all of this and be of service without I'm trying to use my privilege essentially in the best way I can for the least amount of harm. That's what's happening for me. That didn't answer your question, but that's where I'm at right now.
Let's get more into that. But before, let's if anybody's new to What's on an Elephant and Castle Facebook page, you're listening to two people here with North American accents talking to you and going, what? Who are these guys? So a little brief introduction is my name is Nick, like I said, and I've lived in London on and off for over 20 years. From Canada originally, but London is my home, and it's where I worked in television and advertising and sports, ice hockey and other sports for many years. And the Elephant and Castle community is at our core right now, where we can help with our project Retribe, to help people connect with one another. And we're all going through stuff. So this is the time for community, connection, authenticity, loyalty, learning about our community. Learning about the diversity of our communities, and Mel, yes, you are Canadian too, but you've lived in and out of Europe for an awful long time. But maybe a couple of sentences about who you are too.
Who I am. I feel like I've answered that question 1 million times, and I never know how to answer it. So, I am a counselor and an integrative counselor, and so what that means is I use different approaches from different healing practices to make space for people to connect with themselves in a way that can support where they're at in their life and move going forward in ways that also honor the uniqueness and beauty and complexity of everything that they might be, and really change perhaps the narratives around who they think they are, who they told they were supposed to be, and really to help honor who they are inside. So that's what I've done in a very Coles Notes version, which I think Coles Notes is also a very North American thing, I think. So anyway, that's the summary.
It's a summarized, a shortened version. And now we've been working with the Elephant and Castle for a few months now. And our idea coming in there, working with the Elephant and Castle community, was through our lived experiences to help people with transition and life in motion. And again, giving people strategies and tools to be able to deal with these changes. But then COVID happened, and now again, this huge thing of us all going through a thing together, and always at the core of it, knowing that connection and community can help us in so many ways. And that's why we've been doing this for the last several weeks, a couple of months now. And now we're heading into June, and I think it's a really good time to kind of reflect a little bit about what we have done and what we've talked about, but also to kind of look at, now that restrictions are being loosened with regards to social distancing, personal distancing, the anxiety maybe that some people are feeling going back into communities, and then also, with the pain that's suffering with a lot of division. And I know that, Melissa, this is something that you and I are both working on with regards to using our privilege of where we are coming from in terms of our whiteness, and then being able to learn and understand and connect, again, I can't wait to get Andrew on the program again, because this is something that we were going to talk about today. So, Mel, like, I know you're with your integrative approach, you'd use a lot of empathy and empathic kind of energy. How do you feel right now? Like with stuff that's going on, how do you feel physically?
Before I answer that, I do want to acknowledge too, like, given the race wars that are happening, that have been happening, I think I also want to kind of acknowledge, when we talk about community, that can be very different for different kinds of people. And I think that's what we're trying to actually do, is be able to use, as you said, our whiteness, our privilege, our position, to use how the world might see us. And I would say you even more than me, because you're a white man, which is like winning the lotto, and use that to really build support, or help build support, for communities, for people who are often experiencing barrier. So this feels a bit weird, just to say, like, I mean, I wish Andrew was here, I wish other people, but here we are. So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that I know I'm white, I know you're white, and this conversation, and we want to build community, but not just because we want to, but because we want to be able to use what we can use and offer what we can offer. And that's also how I'm feeling right now, is trying to use what I can, my white privilege, my position, my abilities, to be able to create more of a space for people. Sorry, can you hear me? Because there's somebody's decided to mow the lawn next door.
Do you know what? Actually, these things are so good. They block out a lot of noise. So as long as you're talking, that's the important bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like, how do we use our whiteness? And that doesn't mean our skin color. It does, but it also means just the system itself. And really, how can we dismantle it? How can we make tangible, actual change? That's how I feel. I feel like I want to be doing more, and using what I can use to really, like, change stuff in a real way. And that can look like, for us, I know that can look like when we start hiring, who we hire, how we hire, whose voices we amplify. Like, these are really simple and important ways. So that's what I've just kind of been thinking about and sitting with.
I think there's an awful lot to kind of feel right now. And I think that the amazing thing about this technology that I'm not really used to, in terms of, how I used to do TV, is that Andrew's actually texting me and saying that, he can try to get on in the next, say 20 or 30 minutes, because he's been held back. And I've just said, jump on when you can. And I think that, I don't think anyone's going to mind if we kind of just ramble a little bit, but I would like to reflect. I would like to reflect on what we've done, the workshops that you've led us through, and they started off with, the idea of self-care and unlearning and community and connection. And, can you kind of think back to the beginning, and kind of like through the workshops that we've done, and kind of let's reflect on kind of some of the things that people have said, some of the hurdles, some of the struggles, and also some of the strategies that we've been able to implement with people over the last couple of months.
Yeah, so I think the idea of self-care is like a word, a language, a philosophy that's been around for a really long time. And I think it's probably can mean different things to different people. And I think that's what the essence of us building stuff around self-care is to help, I think, people reflect on what self-care can mean for them, and then be able to build their own routine, their own practices, based on their own relationship with themselves, with their bodies, with the world around them, right? So I think what you consider self-care is going to be very different from what I consider not only caring for myself, but loving myself. And really, the way I see care turned inward is really a part of like, how do I get to be my own friend today? Even if I'm like angry at my friend right now, even if we disagreed around something, how do I get to be my own friend? And I think that's the baseline around how we can take a beat and take some time for ourselves, really. And I think there's like this culture, especially like Western dominant countries, where it's like self-care means selfishness, or it means that you can be in jeopardy of not getting a promotion, because capitalism needs us to work hard, needs us to compare, needs us to want more than the other person, and that has to look a certain way. So it's like, how are we taking time for ourselves? And even the workshops itself can be just, this is 45 minutes where you get to do whatever you want to do and be however you want to be and show up however you need to show up, without like any kind of performative function, performative task, right? So that's one piece of it, is creating that space for people to essentially be how they are. And then maybe talking to each other, we'll learn like different things about each other and about ourselves, right?
And that's something like I've discovered in the last few months, doing this process of learning about self-care, and everybody knows that I've had a hard time dealing with the idea of self-care, because like I told you, I feel like I've been told that it's selfish and self-love is selfish and I've got to love others, but it's these little things. And it's the idea of, one of our workshop series was about unlearning old behaviors. And I think that's been so important in my journey, and especially to where I am now, and what we're talking about, our privilege and our expectations, is that this is a time really to reflect and think about where we learned and how we learned certain behaviors, because are they serving us today? And this is really the language that I'm learning through the workshops, is did these old ideas of what a real man mean to me, and what I was taught as an athlete, and what I was taught as the son of my father, which were these ideas of certain types of masculinity, which were, they grew into something being very, very toxic, and something that I've had to unlearn, because not only was it unhealthy for myself, but it was unhealthy for the people around me. And this is a process, Mel. Like,
so
this is
in what ways was
Oh
it
yeah.
unhealthy for yourself and for people? Like, let's get like really, like, give us some practical, like tangible examples.
So it was unhealthy for myself because I needed help. I needed help with certain issues, and I was taught this idea that a real man can sort out all of his own problems.
Mm-hmm.
And in this kind of the crux of the selfishness and self-centeredness that I was, which is that I could sort out all my own problems, I did need help because I had issues with substances, and these substances were killing me. So it wasn't good for me, but it also wasn't good for the people around me, because they saw me slowly slowly dying, I suppose. But also it's like this behavior that where we're told that we can do certain things when and if we need help, asking for help is so important. But if we don't, that's when it starts to be negative towards me and others, because you start pulling people down around you, right?
You want everyone just starts sinking.
Yeah. And that was at home, that was in my personal relationships, and that was at work, because I couldn't perform at work either. And when people would say, Nick, we've got to get this project in on time, and if I was the producer of that project, I would be thinking to myself that I've got to do it, rather than actually asking people who worked around me and with me for help on the project. So again, it's these kind of ideas of singularity, of ego, of accomplishment, and trying to be better than other people.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, it seems like the role of the ego has been made a lot of choices for you. So maybe you can talk about, I think this conversation's switching, but that's cool. I like it. Like, can you talk about what your understanding of the ego was and the role it played in your life, and maybe now how that relationship is changing? Maybe you don't know. That's cool. But
I'm just trying to think about like what the ego is, right? So are we talking like psychoanalysis type thing about the ego, the id, and the super ego? I don't know. But
whatever you want.
I suppose the ego being my thoughts, my actions that are going to that I'm going to implement to live, right? So I'm going to do certain things. The ego always based around the I, about what I want, not necessarily what I need. Selfishness, self-centeredness around me. So I would say that my ego was just all based around me and what I needed to feel secure.
I think, go on. I'm just going to
No,
read.
yeah. And I had a hard time with thinking that my ego always thinking that I'm right.
Yeah.
So my perception is that I am right. I am right in thinking these certain things, having these certain opinions. And they're always based on opinion too, never based on any fact.
And whose opinion, right? It's yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, go on.
No, I've got a funny feeling you're going to do your therapy thing on me now.
No, I know. No, go on. I'm not going to do my therapy thing.
Around, you always do. And then around, yeah, what I was thinking, my opinion on what was right. But Mel, those were also things that I think were learned behaviors from, the people who I followed, like my father, coaches, people I looked up to in the business world, business partners, etc. And so in the ego, my opinion, but also having no self-worth. Right. So here's something interesting, is that I never really knew who I was. I always thought that I was the exterior, like the suit, the car, the girl, the flat. Right. I always thought that was it. So inside I had no sense of who I truly was. So it was like the ego was all these thoughts of what I should be.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think one of a beautiful woman I learned a lot from, Mona Miller, has this, she breaks it down like high ego, low ego, and then your spirit or your essence. And I think high ego is the goal of the high ego is to be powerful. And the reason why one might want to feel powerful is because they've spent their whole life feeling powerless, right? And not to pinpoint you, but you're the one I'm talking to, so it's going to have to happen, is that if you spent your life feeling like you didn't know who you are, but you learned who you were through your dad, let's say, if I can say that, because you're pretty open with sharing about that relationship, then if you learn who you are from your dad, and you're also learning through fear, you're not learning through love most of the time, that's a blanket statement, but you were learning a lot of how to be through fear, right? Through not hurting him, not making him mad. So you, in order to develop any sense of power, you perhaps took on this ego leading you in your work, in your relationships, in your athletic career, right? Does that feel?
Yeah, that's like right on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, It seems like now in your last couple years, you've been having your spirit, for lack of a better word, or your essence kind of lead the way. And what a nightmare of a show that is. But it's like the best kind of nightmare. Like it's the best kind of beautiful, chaotic, messy, right? I don't know.
No, I agree. And what it's done is it's somehow, by kind of going I know we call heart-centered work rather than kind of this ego-driven work, right? And I'm starting to learn that, Mel, through you and through our teachers that I have around me, and what it's given me is it's literally a perception change. Like when I was in substance use, I didn't think I had a problem, and when the consequences started getting bad enough, that's when I asked for help. But it was only the consequences, the failed relationships, failed businesses, jail, all of the consequences that I was thinking were the problem, not the cause, right? And it was when I finally asked for help, it was the cause was treated, the myself, and from that I got to get out of the substance use cycle, and then I got to see from the outside. So my perception changed on it, about how truly powerless I was. And what I've done and now working with men in recovery is that it's very hard to see it when you're in it. And that goes for substance use, it goes for masculinity that we would call toxic, it goes for privilege, white privilege. It's hard to see it when you're in it. And I think what coming from here has given me over the last, year and a bit, 4 years, but definitely since we've been working together building Retribe, has been giving me this ability to understand that it's not my way, and to step back and to be able to actually go that everybody's got different perceptions, and that the world, if we kind of just understood that our perception is definitely not what the person next to us' perception is, and can we not learn to cultivate understanding and compassion for one another? Because the way you see something is the way I don't see it that way, right?
Yeah, it's like if we're all looking out through a window frame, right? And depending on our height, depending on where the window is, depending on all these factors, or depending on if the sky is gray that day, or not even the sky is gray, if a cloud is passing by, we're just seeing a gray sky,
Yeah.
right?
And if
But
it's height, then you're not looking out of it because you're so short.
right, fair, haha. But like, so that's the thing, is we're all kind of, our focus goes where our attention is, right? Like we go where our attention is focused. So if the world around us is around, when am I getting my next drink, or when can I get my next date, or when can I get this, then that's what our world becomes, is where our attention really goes. And I think such a big practice, especially with like the world being on pause or closing down for the last couple months, is like, now what happens when what you've known is called into question, which what values what you had, what work ethic you had, is called as a like is asked to be reflected on in ways. And again, that's for that's for people who've had like intense 9 to 5 jobs or banking or whatever kind of things. Yeah, like what are our values now, and how have they really changed it, and changed it. And also and I think also too, like now with like what's happening with America, what's happening with around the world, which again has always been happening, but now somehow like social media, like cell phones are letting us see things that maybe were easier to ignore. But the idea is like, we need to make a stand on some level. We need to have we need to solidify our value on some level. And this is an opportunity. Where are our values now, with our family, with our beloveds, with our friends, with our privilege, with our positionality? Like, where are we aligning ourselves with? Who are we aligning ourselves with? So that's the piece. What's happening for you? You're very distracted.
Andrew's texting. He's trying to get to somewhere where he can get on here in the next 15 minutes. So I'm texting him. So I'm trying to hope that he can jump on for 20 minutes.
That'd be nice.
That went from a lot from self-care to to unlearning and understanding and boundaries. I think that is something that we talked about too. Yeah. About healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. Can you kind of like re-explain kind of the journey that we went through with regards to boundaries?
Yeah, I think boundaries is again like a word I think people might be afraid of, or might be unsure around, or might see it again as selfishness. But I think with boundaries, the way I see it anyway, is the ability to be able to love somebody and yourself at the same time. And so boundaries allows us to not say no, but to say yes to ourselves. And by saying yes to ourselves, we're able to really cultivate the relationships we need to really help nourish us. And also it's about respecting the other person too, in my opinion. Is like, I love you enough to say no to this, or I love our relationship enough to let you know how I need to be maybe talked to, or what love looks like for me. Because when you talk to me this way, then you're gonna get like 5-year-old Melissa, who's not a good one to get, right? Or you're gonna get 15-year-old Melissa, who's very, very angry. But if you talk to me in a way that 38-year-old Melissa can relate to, who's kind of figured her stuff out, then that's that's a way. But in order for me to communicate that, I need to figure out what works for me and what I need. And the truth is that if you express a boundary to somebody who is in your circle, who loves you, they are going to bless you for doing that, right? If you express it to somebody who's used to taking advantage of your lack of boundaries, then they're going to make it seem like it's your fault and you're being selfish. So that's also really a key part in who's honoring your boundaries, because those are the people that are going to be in your circle, right?
It's so hard to say no. That's what I've learned, right? And this is the thing, like this, I think we even talked about even what's coming up over this weekend, and how my fear of like people's perception of me is I'm still riddled with it. I'm still riddled with saying no to people. And you know, like, so yeah, just saying no to somebody who might not be doing a good job and with work or something, or a relationship that I don't think is going to go a certain way, and saying no. And every time I say no, which is so hard because I'm scared of that reaction back to me. I'm scared of, you know, and that's.
What reaction though? What are you actually scared of by saying no? What's the worst thing that will happen? Okay, you're hurting.
Yeah, hurting someone's feelings, I suppose. Yeah.
So by you not saying no, you're thinking that you're doing them a better favor.
Oh, I know it's insane. I know it's ridiculous.
Oh, I didn't say insane. I just think that's your ego leading it.
Yeah, and I get like this. I get sweats. I get an anxious feeling. But every single time I'm truthful, it always works out well. You know, I have enough evidence to do it, but I still have an uncomfortable spot that I'm dealing with. You know, with regards, you know, we've talked about people pleasing and how. A lot of people I know, they'll say, oh, you know, I'm a people pleaser. I just do so much for everybody else. And I know some people in my life really who were close to me who would do anything for anybody. And, but at the core, I knew it would be just crying out for love, because they were not loved. And I think that although we, you know, self-care, I'm always very cautious around people who say that they're people pleasers, because that was something to me, like it definitely in my case, I'm searching out for something. You know, if I'm pleasing something, it's because I probably want something back from them, which I'm learning is this journey of actually doing things for people with no expectation of anything in return. And I think that's like everything that we do. It's a journey. It's a unlearning and a relearning of stuff.
I also think though there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable and not wanting to hurt people. That's a good thing, is to, like, you know, sit in the discomfort and to know that you're uncomfortable with something. That is a good sign, because I think if you didn't, I'd be like, well, there's something really deeper happening for you, because you're not tapping into, yeah, nobody wants to hurt anybody else. As like, I mean, there's some evidence to the contrary, and that's racism, right? But if we're talking about like us kind of sitting with our own trauma and our own pain and our own hurt, then yeah, we don't want to cause harm to other people. But what I would maybe suggest is that there might be a lack of trust that you get to be loved for not being this projection of masculinity or like perfection or all that nonsense that people think can only be loved, right? I think that's at the root of it, is like, are you trusting that somebody's going to see you in your messiness, in your no, and still love you, right? Like that's, for me, the core of it is like, I've said this 1,000 times because it's true. For me anyway, it's hard to love somebody, but it's not as hard as accepting love back. For me, that's the game changer, right? Is to say like, oh, you know, I'm going to be scared and I'm going to be insecure and my trauma is going to come, and you're going to talk to 15-year-old Melissa, and you're still going to sit there? You're still going to love me? I don't know what to do with that. Nobody ever taught me how to accept love, how to be seen for all of me, rather than the one who can look a certain way or act a certain way or speak a certain way. Because what happens when that's one part of me, but then there's also all these other bits of me. So I think that's a real fear for a lot of people, at least in my line of work too. It's like trusting that we will be loved regardless of the image we have to present. right? So when the makeup comes off, when the pajamas come on, right? When the language gets a bit like crass, when the tears come, do we still get to be loved? And I think that's where the learning comes and the acceptance comes too, right? So go on. I know
No,
you're
you
doing
can.
something with
No,
Andrew.
I'm just hitting buttons. I'm hitting buttons.
Um, I don't know. Does that ring true? Like that rings true for me. And I think
Yeah.
anybody around people pleasing is just because I'll please you, so you don't have to see me, so I can keep in the shadows, so I could keep only projecting, presenting a certain way.
And I think that I'm trying to keep this to a narrative of, so what we've talked about is self-care,
Yeah,
being able to get into a place of understanding and compassion for ourselves, which
friendship with.
then enables us to be compassionate for others, which then enables us to be able to form healthy boundaries. So it's kind of like, it starts with self-care, being able to care for others, being able to set boundaries, healthy boundaries. And I think that comes from an inner strength. And it's something it's developed. It comes over time and practice, through trial and error, about how to sit to with language.
What I'm going to say though too is just, it doesn't have to be in that order. It doesn't have to be first it's self-care, then it's boundaries, then it's not like this linear thing. It can
Mm-hmm.
happen all at the same time, or one can happen for a amount of time and the others can come, and then one can step back and the other can come, one can be highlighted and then the other. Like, I think that's something that's important to highlight also, is when it comes to healing or our kind of self um loving relationship, it's going to be really messy and really non-linear, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually good. So compassion, boundaries, self-care, it's like this revolving door, right? That's what it is that they can all exist together, and then they can all stand alone on some level too. So it's really figuring out what's needing the most at this time in your life. Maybe it's like, if you put a firm boundary of like, I'm not going to help you move today because my back is hurting, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a boundary, and it's also an act of love for yourself. So they can exist together too, right? So it's not that linear, and also it's having compassion for yourself to be able to say like, I'm not, I need to take time. And so by you doing that, you're learning how to be compassionate to yourself. And then all of a sudden it gets a bit easier to attune or tune into what compassion looks like outwardly. But again, you're right, in terms of the relationship with yourself has to happen first. If you don't have an anchor, then what holds you down when the waves come, right? Because the waves come. So what is your anchor? And I think the theme I've tried at least to weave through all of the workshops is like, let's find our anchors, right? For me, it's as simple sometimes as just my breath, and like a lot of breath work, a lot of practices. But I think that's a theme of what's your anchor? What does your care look like? What does compassion mean to you? And what boundaries do you need to invite in or make
let's
firmer?
let's reflect over compassion, like we've just done a few 3 weeks over compassion. Okay, so dial back into the brain. What were the how did we start to work through the workshops through compassion?
Oh, I don't remember. That feels like 1,000 years ago. But I
It was
think
about compassion fatigue, right?
well, that was, I think, part of it. But I
But
think
that evolved, didn't it? That evolved for
that
you.
changed for
Yeah.
sure. I
Let's
think
explain that. Explain how it changed from
um,
compassion fatigue to where you now would like to word it.
so I think the intrigue around compassion fatigue. So I'm in Toronto right now, and I'm doing frontline work again. And I think working with a lot of frontline workers and seeing a lot of and holding a lot of pain and like chaos and crisis, you just get tapped out, you get burnt out, you're done. Like, there's like no more space for me to hold this anymore. And that's the idea around compassion fatigue. It's generally used in the line of like frontline workers or caregivers, which is a real thing, and it's a true thing. I 100%. I've almost quit over my 10 years like 1,000 times because I couldn't hold it anymore. And I think essentially what it comes down to is is me forgetting to take care of myself through the process of it. And that's not to say, that's not a judgment of myself or my coworkers or my colleagues or anybody in the service. It's just that if you're in the helping profession, that's your job, is to help, is to be there, is to hold space for people, and there is pain especially. So, but we can't actually hold the pain without knowing and tapping into our own pain and our own abilities and capabilities, and knowing what we can do to kind of regroup, to secure our anchor a little more. So that is like compassion fatigue in a like nutshell, right? But I think what we started too, which was really important for me with the workshops and making it a kind of a series, is that first, in order to figure all that out, we have to tap into our own shadows, the parts of ourselves that are actually tired and exhausted and kind of hard, like really hard to find hope. And so that's what we did, a bit of like shadow work, a bit of like, yeah, we all have an inner critic, an inner asshole, an inner bully. And so let's invite that bully in. Let's give them space to chat with us. And then let's challenge them on some of their thoughts. So that was the first kind of like part of it, right? Is not kind of dismissing it, not saying, oh, okay, I'll just put that in the back burner now, but inviting the bully in, inviting the hard, like, those untruths that maybe we took as truths in, and letting them shine. And then we did a little practice around releasing that, right? And then I think once we're able to kind of have a closer relationship with the pain, with the darkness, with the shadows, however you want to call it, then we could tap into more of like, when we're in relation to somebody else, not taking it personally, and recognizing that we're all suffering, right? That's like, the pain might be optional, the suffering is not. Or actually, that's a reverse, right? The pain is real. Suffering sometimes can have a little bit of a choice of how we want to really embody it and embrace it. So that's kind of the idea too, of like, we're this collective suffering, and we all want to hopefully relieve the suffering. What's compassion is, we want to relieve the suffering for ourselves, for somebody else. We want to make the world a little kinder to live with and to operate in. So how do we do that? We can't do that without knowing what our own suffering, and then really identifying somebody else suffering, not based on our perception of it, but what they're saying their suffering is, and really stepping up. Like,
okay, keep talking, because I'm just trying to get Andrew in.
I know, I see that. I don't like talking all the time. That's where I need more compassion for myself. So I am now talking. Yeah, this is compassion. It's a practice. I think that was the theme we talked about too, right? It's not like something.
Did you just say you don't like talking?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I have to, but that's rude also. I think it's a practice. It's hard work. Everything is hard work, but it's beautiful work, and it's needed work, and we can't do the work without doing the actual work, right?
Yes.
So that's a bit about compassion. What's your take, Nick? Let's see if you can text and talk at the same time.
I don't know if I can text and talk at the same time, and try to get Andrew in too, because he's having a hard time with the link. But you know,
what did you learn from the workshop, if anything, or what did you walk away from the compassion workshop?
Oh, Andrew's in.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm a co-host.
Promote to panelist.
He has like 4 minutes though. That's not enough.
Oh, I think we can. We're gonna break. We're gonna extend. Andrew, you're in.
Right here, family.
Hello.
Hey, man, guys. So sorry, man.
No,
Finally made it.
Thank you.
Finally made it.
You hustled.
No, I hustled hard. Not letting you down, guys.
Okay, you know what? That's the great thing of these live things, and also having Mel as a business partner, is that she just said that she doesn't like to talk, but she just hasn't stopped talking for 40 minutes.
That's a real gift.
An exaggeration. Sorry, I didn't. Anyway, it's nice to have you. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you, Andrew. We've been
problem.
kind of just we've been summarizing our last few weeks at the Elephant and Castle community, and how our workshops have gone from like learning about self-care to being able to build healthy boundaries, to learning about compassion and empathy fatigue and everything that we've been going through. But now we're going to overrun with you. We're going to go for till 3 o'clock, because I would like your kind of take on the fact that we are now coming out of, you know, certain restrictions are being lifted. Anxiety might be coming into people's life. Oh, first of all, I've got to introduce you.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
also,
sir.
you know, so people, I'm going to just run into this, but this is Andrew Fuller, who is the co-founder of Hood Lessons. And Hood Lessons is an amazing organization that helps with childhood, adulthood, and fatherhood, especially in Black men communities. And you're a leader in this in terms of guiding men to give them tools. We met several months ago, and I'm so glad to be able to be on this journey with you, and to be to have these understandings that we have. So welcome here, first of all.
Yes, sir. Great to be here with you guys once again.
Do you want to just give a little 2-minute rundown of what you do?
Yeah. So Hood Lessons basically is you know, simply put, myself and Leif Wallace, we've been through a lot growing up, and we've said to ourselves, you know, when you find your way out of the maze and you get healing and you gain the victory in some sort, we always just move along and we tell the story in drips and drabs. And we said, no, we want to create an organization where we can tell our story knowing that we have found the way out. We found the way out. So Hood Lessons is simply a personal development program where we help younger boys, younger men, older men, fathers, brothers. And some females would say, what about us? We are helping men so that we can be who we're supposed to be for women. You know, so the woman is not eliminated. You know, a better man can only benefit the household, if that makes sense. And, you know, where we play our role in society, not in a sense of just headship, but servant leadership. That's what we're really trying to promote. As men, we are not supposed to just be the guys with the big voice, you know, no emotion, no crying, do this, do that. I just don't think that men even know who they are deep down. You know, so that's our job. Our role is to help men know who they are, own who they are, and heal from the things that they become. Yeah.
Amazing. As I said, Andrew, we're coming out of a pandemic, you know, that's been very painful. It seems like, you know, the world is in another pain with regards to prejudice and racism that's systemic. I know that like this is it's just a tough time for people. Very. Can you kind of just you know, how have you been feeling over the last week?
Okay, so I've been feeling very, very attacked, and it's a bold statement. Automatically, someone could ask, by who? You know, who's attacking you? What's going on? But it's nothing to do with people. It's nothing to do with voices or messages or non-messages. The attack just happens when you know there's a struggle. It doesn't have to be me. You know, the empathy chord just strikes, and it's nothing. I kid you not, Nick. Right? It's not even just the Black thing. When you are someone who hurts when people hurt, it just feels a bit more hurtful when it's your own people. But that's what I've been feeling. It's like I'm not in America, but I've now been burdened with that problem. You know, I am not the ones who have suffered with the COVID situation. I've not been touched by COVID, but hearing people are being touched, I'm touched. So it's like I don't have the physical ailment, but the mental pressure, because I take on a lot, Nick. You know, and that's why in everything I do, I have to be careful. I've got to give my time properly. But this past 2 weeks, I've been like crazily attacked, left, right, and center. You know, my mind's been low. You know, my eating habits were changing. My sleeping pattern just changing. I'm snappy. You know, the things that I've thrown away, it's not that they're back now, Nick, but I'm like, whoa, if I don't regulate and learn how to calm again, I'm going to find myself just going right back. And that's not going to happen. But that's the honesty of where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like when you're talking, all I could hear in my own mind is just this collective trauma, right?
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
we're trying to make peace with, or in whatever peace means. Doesn't mean calm necessarily, but like, how do we accept it? But then how do we actively move to have this not repeat itself again? Because
that's right.
It's again. So I mean, what I've been trying to like figure out, and maybe you have insight into this in a very different way, is how do we like bridge the love and the rage? Because I think there's a lot of narratives around, well, if you're enraged, then you're not loving. And I'm like, that's not really true, because how do we honor the pain?
That's right.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I've studied a lot of great men in the past. Everyone has gone through things. Everyone has gone through things. That's number one. That's what I realized. Even when someone is saying something out of turn, I have to slow down and realize that maybe they don't know. They just don't know. Their reaction is simply because they don't know. I can't judge them as if they know. Like, how can you say that? How can you do that? So first things first, I've got to first understand that I could be angry, I could be upset, and people might be thinking and saying things out of turn. Even in those moments, I have to be the one that steps up and says, I don't even know where they are, why they are, what they're saying in a sense, and why they're thinking what they're thinking. But for me, my range, or my rage, should I say, it can't be triggered. It can't be triggered by every little message, every little status, every little news article. If that's, I'm telling you, that is what's happening right now. We go on Facebook, it's game over. It is finished. Once you go on Facebook, game over.
Yeah.
So I've had to kind of play smart. In Jamaica, there's a saying that says you have to play fool sometimes to catch the wise. In other words, every situation you get into, you can't just go gun ho. So for me right now, in regards to this current topic, I am allowed to be angry, but there's like a terminology that says be angry but don't cause harm, and be angry but show your anger in a respectful way, because being angry is a human emotion, but it's what comes with anger and what comes after anger. That's where the issue is. And then we call that anger. No, that's just anger taken to the next level. Right. So it takes a lot of self-control, to really be really going through it in your mind, in your heart. It's a real rough time. But then we got to be respectful and understanding to those people who don't have a clue on how to be controlled. There are some people right now that haven't got a clue. All they know to do is snap, and the best thing to say to them, it's not, you shouldn't be doing this. It's not, there's a better way, because that's where they are, So yeah, it is a tough one. It is a tough one.
Andrew, you talk about how you feel as a man who's being attacked, and how that's kind of thrown you out of whack, with your eating and your temper, etc. But you said that you're not going to let it take you further.
That's right.
So
that's right.
how do you have the tools? What are the tools for you to be able to step back?
Great question.
And also, how important is it for you to have some people around you who can keep you accountable?
That's right.
Like, whoa, Andrew, that's not like you.
That's right. That's right. I'll start on the first one, Nick, right? And I'll get straight to the point, right? When I get to that point, Nick, this is what I do. This is what I do. I stop. And I realize that what's taking place now isn't my life. It's not my be all and end all. It's something that's happened. It's separate than everything I've been going through. It's not everything that I've been going through. I've just seen it today and it's trying to draw me out. So what do? I stop and I start to remind myself of who I am, Nick. I remind myself of who I am. It's not about the feelings and emotions in times of peril. That's what we do in the mind. The mind goes crazy. I don't want this to happen. I'm scared. What are we going to do? What if that happens? It's coming to us next. No. Anxiety says things like this. You are scared of you are scared of events that haven't even happened yet. You're scared of something that your mind is telling you is going to come to you, but that's not the case. So I start to stop. I stop and I say, Andrew, this is who you are. That's who you really are. You are a calm person. You are patient. You have a little girl who learns patience from you. You know, a lot is riding on you. You staying sane and you staying controlled is not just for you. There are people watching you, Andrew. There are people who know that if you respond like that, they know it's not you. And that doesn't have to be your questions, Nick. Even if you're silent in that time, a moment of silence will always help. A moment of silence will always help. The analogy, Nick, if you're a racing car driver like I used to be younger, if you are shifting from gear 3 to gear 4 at 70 miles per hour, if you don't get that shift quickly, the speed's gonna come down. There's a time gap, basically. You have a time gap, you have to get the gear shift up to gear 4, so the speed keeps on going higher and higher and higher. But when you delay the gear shift, what you're saying is we're not going to take this further. We're not going to get angrier. We're not going to allow this situation to bring me out of who I really am. Time is key. I stop, Nick. The day's rushing, work, money, food, got to buy this, got to buy that, got to get here, phone calls, messages, emails. Can you do this? Can you speak here? Everything. Stop. Stop. So Nick, you might have seen me post, right? I'm doing no more online programs, right? No more online programs. That's my coping mechanism. I need to realize I am only human. And if I continue to try and build up everybody else, when I need to stay strong, when the chips are against me, I'm not going to know how to. So time is key. In these times, it's good to just slow down. So that's what I've done in this past week, and I've got back. That's why when I say I'm not going to allow it to happen, right? And then having friends around you, right? No man is an island. So I got my guys around me, my girls around me who are able to check up on me, and we are honest together. There's no point in having people around you, but you're not going to be honest with them. There's no point. Oh, Andrew, how are you? I'm okay. That person is irrelevant now. That friendship is good. You like each other, but it's not really going to benefit neither of you. So my friends are not just friends like hi and bye. My friends are, Andrew, how are you doing? I am not okay. I'm not okay. I don't know what's going on, and they're able to help me. They remind me. It's a lot of reminding, Nick, because I'm not a bad person. We're not bad people, but we forget that instantly. Sometimes you just need a friend to say, hey, Nick, listen, man, you know this isn't you. I know you think it's you, but it's not you. You're feeling this. It's normal. Your emotions are running riot, but remember who you really are. That's who you really are. Like, that's the facts. You're angry, but that's an emotion. But Nick, this is not you. And that's how I've been kind of coping through this, you know, Nick.
I'm wondering, we talked about like who Nick had mentioned before, like he didn't know who he was, and he learned it maybe in not the like healthiest ways from other people. And I think what you said is like amazing, is that all we can really do when we're in our circle, in our communities with our loved ones, is remind each other, is the remembering. Because we have to, you know, we forget, but then we remember, and that's like the cycle. And I see you as a leader in your community. And so I'm just wondering, who do you call on? Like, you know, you have your circle of friends, but are there other leaders you've looked up to help you get to this place?
Yeah. Honestly, there are. And Nick will tell you, right? You know, I'm a very honest person, very, very. And people say, yeah, but we're honest. I'm like super honest, man.
Right.
So I'm going to be honest with you. There are not a lot of people that are around me that I can go to. And it's not because they don't want to be the go-to. They don't see me as someone who goes through problems.
Okay.
Like one day I went to someone who I looked up to, but based on what I do, based on how I am, based on my presentations, and they look at me like, wow, look at what you do. Wow, you go across the world and you do this and you do that. You've always helped me. But the dynamics in their mind is like a hierarchy. You're not allowed to come to me for help. And that's why I love my and Nick's relationship, because it's so organic and it's so real that people would think we've known each other forever. That's why this whole race thing and this whole prejudice and all of these issues going on, there is a solution. Like, this is breakable. And me and Nick, right, not one moment did I think about, well, not one moment, because there are finer and greater things other than our race, our color, and our creed. These color, creed, and race can never be the rarities of who we are. Period. That's period. So I would always go to someone like Nick, and Nick probably didn't even know that. I could go to Nick right now if I was at my rock bottom, and I've only known Nick for a few months. The proof is in the pudding. Nick approached me like a human approaching a lion, and vice versa. Like, I could get my head bit off. I could get told to go away. I could be told, who do you think you are? But Nick came with no fear, but only with love. I know you don't know me, and I don't know you, but I'm going to come to you as if I've known you forever. That's why lions don't pounce when certain people come up to them, because the way they come up to them is so free and so honest and so themselves. That's the comfort that I need. When I go to people for help, it's not for great words. It's not for quotes. It's not for philosophy. It's nothing to do with that. It's presence. There is a power in your presence, both of you. And me just being around you, I feel it. I've had a long day at work and I'm in this conversation. I can actually feel, it's like I feel safe, like I'm in a safe place. And I can't describe it, but that's how I feel. And those are the people that I go to. It's not about their creed or their color or their race or what they do, if they're CEOs or, you know, their bosses in therapy and no. I'll go to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but I just need that person to take me as I am. That's the prerequisite of the people who I go to.
That's a good one.
I'm honored to be one of those guys, and
Yes,
I'm honored to have you in my life. And and I know that this is just the beginning of something that's going to happen.
That's right.
And I'm just going to try to kind of contain what we've been talking about for the last little bit. And what's going to be happening over the next few weeks and months to come with, like I say, the relaxation of COVID, but also of the lockdown, but also with what's going to happen globally with an awakening. I think that it's kind of all interwoven with people's compassion. That's right. But something that you really, really, like, if we're going to leave people now with a bit of some strategy and some tips, the one thing that I'm really getting from you is just to put yourself into a place to be able to just listen to someone. You know, not just hear them, but just listen. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Just give, so we can kind of come out of this saying, hey, everybody, just whatever it is, you don't have to come up with solutions. Just listen.
Nick, you just said it. You just said it. Everyone's trying to find a solution and they're pulling their hair out, can't find the solution. It's not the point. The solution ain't even the solution. Like, you said it.
Amazing. Thank you, Andrew. Melissa, do you want a final thought before 3 o'clock dings?
No, I'm just thank you, Andrew, for hustling to get here and sharing that. Like,
no problem.
Events. We appreciate it.
I owe you. I owe you. So Nick, Mel, please call on me again, and you got that in the bag. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna schedule, but also you owe, when this thing all happens, some kind of like get together. You know, family, Nick, barbecue, something.
Nick, we're doing that together.
Yeah.
Let's plan that together.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. And Leif, and let's do it.
That's right. Let's do that. Let's do that, man. Yeah.
It's happening. And I'm going to talk to you offline too.
Yes.
I'll send you some texts after this, because I just about what's coming up this weekend. So I love you, man. I love you.
I love you too, Nick. Listen, guys, much love and take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Take care, man.
Bye. Bye-bye. You can log off, Andrew. I'll just wrap it up with the Elephant and Castle community. Thank you so much for being with us. Sorry that a little bit about the delay. This is just how lives go and how life goes. But I'm so glad that Andrew could hop on and you could hear his beautiful words, because he's an amazing man, and what he's doing with Leif, with Hood Lessons. We will put links everywhere. Melissa, just a final thank you to you too.
Yeah, thank you. Also, like, it's just 20 minutes of Andrew. I'm like, we need way more. So I'm happy. I'm looking forward to more of that.
We definitely will. And this Thursday at 2 p.m., the link is in Facebook for the workshop that Mel and I will be leading. And this is going to be, do you want to kind of just give a little description of what the workshop will be like?
Well, we're veering off course a bit as it is the first week of June. So it's not necessarily a workshop structure, but it's a gathering for us to do a little reflection, a little bit of intention, a little bit of check-in. Yeah.
So kind of like a check-in.
Like a glorified check-in.
Amazing. Looking forward to it. Please join us at Thursday at 2 p.m. for the workshop. Link will be on the What's on an Elephant Castle Facebook page. Thank you guys so much for this beautiful hour.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.